Hey there, welcome to the Nuances Podcast, where we go beyond first impressions with the Asian diaspora and explore the intersection of culture, creativity, social issues, and community. I'm your host Lazu, a new American who grew up in the only place a dodo bird ever lived, which is Mauritius. This podcast is for you if you are part of the Asian diaspora or if you have loved ones who are part of the Asian diaspora and you would love to understand their perspectives with a little bit more nuance. I rarely saw any representation growing up, and when I did see Asian representation, it was usually one-dimensional, very stereotypical. You never saw stories about the Korean-American cowboy who loves to listen to Shania Twain in his pickup truck in Indiana, or the Muslim men who are advocating for women's rights in America. You certainly didn't hear of Desi parents who support their sons' aspirations of becoming a rock star. Did you know that there was an Asian American woman who was one of the first DJs to have a daytime talk show on radio? Why are Iranians sometimes considered Asians and sometimes not? How is a gay Filipino sommelier changing the way we think about diversity in the wine industry? Does speaking more than one language change the structure of your brain? Spoiler, it does. How does dementia affect the Asian diaspora? These are all topics that we've covered in this podcast and in upcoming episodes. And since right now we're in Pride Month, I would like to ask you, when was the last time you heard Asian diaspora voices being elevated to celebrate Pride? And more importantly, are those conversations intersectional? When was the last time you heard incredible insights from a 20-something Filipino woman who is bisexual and disabled and super talented and who's learning to live with her disability in Canada? Or how about a Chinese trans woman who lost her elder male privilege when she came out? Or how about a Vietnamese American non-binary music producer living their best life in New York City? Or how about the perspective of Asian gay men who are constantly faced with online dating profiles that list no fats, no femmes, no Asians? See, I didn't know about those stories either, but these are all topics that we've covered on the Nuances podcast, and we keep bringing more perspectives. The Asian diaspora is so diverse. Our identities and our relationships with our cultures are so complex. It can often feel like we're too weird, too out there for people to get it, but we're not. I realized over the course of making this podcast that, in fact, most of us have these complicated intersectional identities that we grapple with every day. They're more common than we think. So every season, I do my best to bring guests from diverse Asian diasporas because let's face it, there's a lot of countries in Asia and I don't know much about most of them. So I try to bring guests from as many Asian diasporas as I can, and also guests who are working across various industries and highlight their stories because our stories are worth telling too. If you enjoy this work, if you enjoy these episodes that are out, I would really appreciate it if you could rate or review on whichever podcast platform you're listening to, whether it's Apple, YouTube, Spotify, Amazon, Audible, Google Podcasts. It would really help other people like you find it. If you want to go one step further and become a super fan of the show and help me produce the show, you can go to nuancespod.com/support. There are many different ways you can support the show financially. I would really appreciate anything you can donate, but if you cannot donate, that is totally fine. Sharing the podcast with a friend would be amazing. Once again, I'm your host Lazu, and I'll see you soon for another nuanced conversation.